Hey, Kate, what did you eat last night?
I made egg bites in my Instant Pot.
What?
Totally. It's a whole thing. There's this whole, subculture of the Instant Pot cult about egg bites. So I guess somebody figured out a knockoff recipe for the Starbucks sous vide egg bites that you can make in the Instant Pot. And
I love that you use the word cult.
It's a cult. So I got this cute little silicone mold that goes in the Instant Pot, and it's got 7 little sort of like muffin pan type things. So they're an intermediate size. I don't even know how to describe. How big would you say those molds are? Like, they're little. They're
2 inches?
Yeah.
Wide, maybe?
Yeah, a couple inches wide and maybe 3 inches deep.
Yeah.
So they're bigger than a mini muffin, but smaller than a normal muffin or a cupcake tray. So anyway, there's 7 of these little opportunities per mold. And so the egg bites I made, you puree up a mixture of eggs and cottage cheese. And you have to have the cottage cheese in there for texture. It creates the souffle type thing. And there's ones where you can use half and half and stuff like that. But the one I did was cottage cheese. And I put mustard powder, onion powder, garlic powder, salt and pepper, and Parmesan cheese in that egg mixture. And then I poured it into the molds with a little crumbled cooked sausage and diced raw red pepper. And then I cooked it in these molds, and they are amazingly good. They're good cold. They're good warm. They're terrific.
Okay. I was thinking I should lie. I was going to say, that sounds amazing, Kate. But if I'm going to be honest with our listeners,
yes.
I just got home from a weekend with Kate. Now, you had made a slight variation that was a little bit different for me. You used the soy riso from Trader Joe's, and they were amazing.
They really were. I forgot to say, I also put Monterey Jack cheese in there as well. Sorry. Yeah.
What I really loved about those, as you saw through the entire weekend, whenever I got a little bit hungry, I could just pull one out to snack on, and it was such a great food source.
Yeah, and it's good. There's only 4 eggs per 7 of the egg bites and about a half cup of cottage cheese. So if you don't go crazy with the other stuff you put in them, they have the potential to be quite healthy. And of course, you could do them with egg whites. You could do them without the fatty stuff in there, but you have to spray the pan apparently. But yeah, they're a great little item.
Definitely recommend those.
Yeah. What about you? What did you eat?
I made spinach and quinoa cakes is what I made.
Cakes?
I had this thing of spinach that I thought I have to use before it goes bad because I was not awesome a couple of weeks ago, and I lost almost a whole container of spinach because I didn't use it in time.
Ugh.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Ugh, the worst. I live my life to try to avoid that kind of thing.
Yes, and I hate it.
Kills me when it
hate
happens. I know. We're the same on that.
So I basically just chopped up a bunch of spinach till it got really fine. You could also use the food processor. It's a super easy recipe. I threw in as much spinach as I had. I did about a cup of quinoa. I did 3 large eggs. I did I think it was about a half a cup of breadcrumbs, but I added a little bit more than the recipe called for. Salt, pepper, half a cup of grated Parmesan cheese, and what else? Italian leaf parsley. You can use, it called for regular parsley, but that's what I had. And some minced chives. And you just put it all together. Make
so
it into
no
little
dried
patties.
herbs or anything?
No.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought about it, but no, just put it in. So it's a very herby patty by the time you're
Yeah,
done.
if you have
but it was
parsley
really
and
good.
chives, yeah. But if you don't even have those, you could make up some dry stuff,
Yeah.
I bet, and it would still be tasty.
Yeah, and you just fry them in oil for a couple of minutes, and and the spinach cooks really quickly. There's also recipes where you can cook the spinach before, but I didn't. And it's really good, and it just reminds me of what I have forgotten, right? Which is this whole idea of how important it is to have little tasty snacks like that, both in the fridge and in the freezer, that you can just pull out and eat on the go. So I wound up making a lot, so I kept some out to eat, and then I also froze a bunch, so I'll have them ready to go. They're really tasty.
That is so smart. Do they need a sauce of some kind?
The ones I made and ate fresh, I did a garlic sauce. It had yogurt, garlic, and some lemon juice, I think, is what I put in it.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, those sound good, but I feel like it could use a little kick or something. So that's awesome. And they don't fall apart.
No, they cooked really well.
Fascinating.
So pleased. And I saved the spinach, and that was my...
Yes.
This is the thing I was really proud of.
STS, save the spinach.
Hashtag, we're going to start trending.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of You Won't Believe What I Ate Last Night. I'm Kate.
And I'm Rick.
And this is our ongoing conversation about food, health, weight management, and our endeavor to be and stay healthy in a really tasty world.
With love, kindness, and compassion towards ourselves and others. We have such a wonderful episode for you today. But before we get to that, remember, rate and review us. You know, do the work we need you to do, people. Whatever your listening platform is, please go there, give us some stars, give us some comments, and as always, word of mouth is the best thing we have. So in this time where people may have extra time at home, and they're like, hey, how do I spend some time? You be like, hey, I know these people that have a really fun, charming, and informative podcast, so check it out.
Yes, and remember, we're in our 5th season, and we have put out 2 episodes a month for 4 years, so you might have some catching up that you can do yourselves.
So get on it.
Please.
So today, we are so excited to welcome back to the podcast today, Vicki Shanta Retelny. Vicki is a nationally recognized lifestyle nutrition expert, culinary, and media consultant. She's the author of 2 books, The Essential Guide to Healthy Healing Foods and The Total Body Diet for Dummies. As a mother of 2, her passion for translating nutrition science into usable real-life messages combined with her culinary capabilities educates consumers on appreciating healthful ingredients and delicious flavors while creating tasty, nutritious meals. She has a particular interest in mindful eating. Her byline has appeared in dozens of national publications and numerous TV shows. We're so excited to have her back.
And she's also an R.D.N, which is Registered Dietitian Nutritionist, which means, unlike us, she really actually knows a lot of this stuff. So we're excited to have her legitimate expert opinion.
God, she's awesome. We're so excited to welcome back to the podcast, Vicki Shanta Retelny. We're going to be talking about a couple things. We're going to be talking primarily about how to boost your immune system and also the relationship of stress, because we might all be going through a lot of stress right now. Welcome back, Vicki.
Great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So with everything going on nowadays with the virus, help us break down like what we should be thinking about as far as our health. Like, what are the top couple things that come to your mind?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I do get a lot of questions about this. And, obviously as a registered dietitian nutritionist and, a lifestyle expert, I like to coin myself. I think of people's lifestyle choices at this time. And there's so much stress now with the fear of the virus and the unknown that people's immune systems are suppressed just by the stress alone. So people realize just by being stressed out or feeling this fear, this overwhelming, doom and gloom, we are suppressing our immune systems. So this is why it is time, and we've talked about this in the past, to take a time out, to slow down, to think about what you're doing and how you're feeling. Obviously, practicing, meditation, deep breathing, thinking about calming yourself down at this time is really important so you can keep your immune system functioning optimally. The other thing is what you're eating, because obviously stress causes stress eating, right? So you want to avoid eating those high sugar, high fat, highly processed foods now, because those are the ones that are not the best for keeping your immune system functioning optimally. Stress eating does happen because we do crave sugar when we're stressed out. Sugar thwarts the cortisol release in the brain. So sugar actually helps bring cortisol levels down. And cortisol is that chemical that's released in the brain when we are stressed out. So there's a reason physiologically that we go towards sugar and highly processed foods when we are under stress. Yeah, so realizing that is really important and focusing on fortifying and supporting your immune system with whole foods, fruits and vegetables, beans, nuts, seeds, whole grains, getting in those phytonutrients, so those plant-based nutrients is so important.
Can you say one more
the
time
immune system
what the sugar does? Because this
optimally.
would include alcohol, right? And everyone I know is hunkering down with big bottles of bourbon. So can you say one more time about that?
Right. Yeah. Well, and alcohol also makes you forget too. Alcohol gives you that, feel good emotional response. But yes, sugar, yes, including alcohol, but including those highly processed sugary foods. Sugar helps thwart the release of cortisol in the brain. So actually tamps down that cortisol release in the brain. And cortisol is that chemical that's released when we are stressed out. So we actually feel more calm when we're eating higher sugar foods because that cortisol is not being released as quickly in the brain. But that obviously is a temporary thing. So you're not going to experience that forever. It's going to be experienced while you're eating those foods or drinking those beverages. And then once that sugar leaves your system, the cortisol once again will be released as the stress levels begin to climb again. Yeah. So it's interesting when we look at the immune system, it's really, the immune system functions properly on, proteins, plant-based compounds like phytonutrients, like I just talked about, minerals and good fats. So you want to be giving your body whole foods to keep your immune system functioning optimally. So, in this time of stress, you want to think about balancing your diet as much as possible with whole foods. So thinking about getting those phytonutrients, those plant-based compounds in fruits and vegetables, in whole grains, nuts and seeds. So you're getting those plant-based nutrients, plus you're getting vitamins and minerals, and also fiber. Fiber in the diet is key for feeding that good bacteria in the gut. So you want to think about propagating the gut with healthy bacteria so you can fight off and keep your immune system supported during this time.
What are your favorite or some of your favorite sources of fiber?
Oh my gosh. Well, fiber to me is such a great way to fill up. So I often tell people not only for immune support, but for weight management, it helps as well. So, whole grains. So I eat a variety of whole grains, whether it's, wheat bran, or I'm doing brown rice or whole grain couscous or quinoa. So I'm trying to get whole grains in my diet as much as possible and thinking about other sources like beans and lentils. So those are called pulses. Obviously, beans and lentils are pulses. So those are great sources of fiber. Also, fruits and vegetables. I mean, vegetables are a powerhouse of fiber. So they say, the vegetables that are in the onion family, like the allium family, so onions, leeks, garlic, are jam-packed with prebiotics. And prebiotics feed the good bacteria in the gut. So we want to eat prebiotic-rich foods. And
what's the difference between a prebiotic and a probiotic?
Very good question. So a probiotic are those live active cultures that you eat, in fermented foods like yogurt and sauerkraut and kimchi. So those are live active cultures that you take in and they infer a benefit in your body, meaning they help keep the good bacteria numbers up. The prebiotics feed the existing good bacteria in your gut, but also help multiply those into more.
Cool.
So the prebiotics feed the good bacteria.
Ah, cool. Thank you.
They're food for the good bacteria, basically.
I don't know if you've gone to your grocery store, but there tends to be a run on maybe fresh vegetables. Do you think there's a difference between using canned vegetables right now versus fresh vegetables, depending upon what people are buying and what people are stocking up and what people can get their hands on?
Well, I think ideally you want to use fresh or frozen first if you can find those, and obviously washing them appropriately, making sure you're, handling them well if you're using fresh. But if all you can find are canned vegetables, by all means do that, because you're not going to get potentially all the nutritional value you would get from fresh or frozen, but you're going to get some. And it's important to be thinking about getting some of those plant-based nutrients in during this time.
How do you recommend people clean their produce if they don't have one of those fancy produce cleaner sprays?
Well, I don't actually recommend those sprays at all.
Oh, good.
They don't really add much value to cleaning the fruit or vegetable. I have a dedicated scrub brush if I'm, using it on, potatoes, things that have a rougher skin, or even an apple. You can use a scrub brush on that with just even water, just cold water and scrubbing. So you don't need to use warm water. You can use cold water, but make sure you do it for a consistent amount of time. They say wash your hands for 20 seconds. I think washing your vegetables for at least 20 seconds is a good practice.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because I've heard about how you're supposed to put vinegar on them or various sort of folklore things about how to get the pesticides off and stuff like that.
Yes. And I've read a lot on this as well. And really, honestly, the bottom line is a dedicated scrub brush and water is the best bet.
That is a great tip. Thank you.
I love that.
Yeah.
I just love to have an expert tell me what to do.
Exactly.
And if it's lettuce, if it's something more delicate, you could submerge it in the water, leave it there for, like I said, at least 20 seconds, but leave it there. I use a salad spinner. So I will spin the lettuce or typically leafy greens in a salad spinner just to get the excess water off as well.
Great. Thank you.
And you do know, like with mushrooms, like something that grows in the ground, typically mushrooms, you don't really want to put those in water. You want to dry scrub them. So basically use a light cloth or a little scrub brush just to get the dirt off and kind of wipe it off versus submerging it in water because it absorbs all that liquid and you really don't want to do that with a mushroom.
In your opinion, what's the role of water right now and drinking water and how much we should be drinking?
Oh, very good. Yes. And when I confer with other experts like immunologists or, disease prevention experts, hydration is key at this time because it does help keep your body hydrated, your mucous membranes, the various aspects of your body to keep your immune system strong is key right now. So water, at least half of your body weight in ounces from fluid and primarily water. So, and obviously if you are sick and you are, vomiting or profusely sweating, you do want to drink more because that's going to really dehydrate you. You do need to take electrolytes in if you are losing fluids, through, vomit or some other way. So you want to make sure you're increasing your electrolytes. But if you're not ill and you're just trying to keep your immune system supported, water is your best bet.
Could you speak a little bit to differentiating between what people might experience with a cold versus what's going on today and what you suggest as far as how to take care of that or how to differentiate between maybe what is like just a regular cold and what may be connected to something bigger?
Well, it is hard to say right now because I think a lot of people are having various symptoms and some people can be asymptomatic, meaning they have no symptoms and they do test positive for the virus. So, the biggest thing they say is fever and a dry cough. If you do have a very dry cough, fever, potentially sore throat, but you do want to make sure that you do take care of that stuff, and the social distancing and, the physical distancing is important because you don't know what you have right now. And really, honestly, you don't want to run to the doctor for everything. I would say, honestly, if you don't feel well, stay in. Stay in, take care of your symptoms by taking in fluids, having some good old chicken soup, which actually does a lot of medicinal value, not only to physically, but for the soul. So you want to think about, taking care of the symptoms and keeping away from others during this time, when you are feeling ill.
When I was in the store, I walked by the meat section and saw all the frozen bone broth and thought, oh, I bet that would be really good right now.
Yes. Well, yes, there's been a run on bone broth, but because it is medicinal. As far as giving you electrolytes and enhancing, the vitamin and mineral losses that may be happening through sweat or if there's other fluid losses occurring. So it's important to think about just fortifying your diet with some of these nutrient-rich foods at this time versus foods that are empty calories and just trying to fill up kind of that stress response. You want to think about calming yourself down, eating slowly, taking time for meals. And now that we're all home, it's important to think about this is time to spend with your family and really enjoy the moments versus wishing that away too.
I want to add something about the question of knowing how to differentiate symptoms. As I've been keeping an eye on this, the information is changing almost daily because we're getting a lot more data. And so I think that the message we want to put out there is that the way to know that is to keep up on what we're being told the differentiation of symptoms is, because what we were told in the beginning, my understanding is that's not necessarily true anymore. So I think even by the time this airs, I just want to say, like, keep up with current info because we're getting more info every day, sometimes more than one time a day, it feels like. So I feel like that's the way we're going to get clear on that kind of thing.
Absolutely. And, I'm not a physician, but what I would say as, a healthcare professional is that you do want to pay attention to your symptoms, heed the CDC's warnings of social, physical distance right now, only because that's probably the best way to stop this from spreading.
When you work with clients who deal with stress eating, what's your maybe one big piece of advice? Because I think with the minute I think about stress eating, I immediately want to go to the comfort foods, which is not any of that stuff that you mentioned in the very beginning of the conversation. So like in that moment, I'm just so stressed. Like I was like, oh, because I just want to feel good. And that's, as you know, with people that are overweight and people that stress eat, that's really one of the hardest things to battle is that moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, a lot of this too is stepping away from it, but that's the hardest part. You're right. When you're in the moment of, I want the cookies and I want them now, it is a challenge to move away from it. So what I do tell people is if you can have, 2 to 3 cookies and put the rest away, or you can have a half a cup of ice cream and leave it alone, then that's fine. If you cannot, not having that food in the house is the best bet. The other thing is, there's nothing inherently wrong with having a small amount of it. The problem is that it tends to go overboard, and people tend to look at those comfort foods as bad foods, in quotes, and then they, lose their resolve to stick to their healthy eating train, and they just go off the bandwagon. So what I do tell people is having a small amount of that food is not a bad thing. Getting physical activity, taking a walk, moving away from the situation, calling a friend, taking a bath, trying to calm yourself down in that moment is probably the most functional thing that people can do. Because if they walk away from it and choose to do something else, they can kind of overcome that stress eating moment and move forward. Many times I tell people, go brush your teeth, wash your face, take a bath, get out of that scenario, and you will feel better, like you're taking action toward your own health and your own hygiene.
Are there any specific foods that help boost the immune system?
Very good question, because I have heard this question numerous times, and boosting your immune system may be not something you want to do, because when your immune system's in overdrive, that can open the door for illness or, pathogens to get in, because your immune system's working overtime and it's not working optimally when it is in a state of stress. So we don't want to boost our immune system necessarily. We want to keep it functioning regularly and optimally. So many times people will say, I want to boost it. You really want to keep it functioning optimally to fend off, foreign invaders and pathogens and viruses. So the best foods, honestly, that you want to think about, getting in those vegetables, getting in those fruits, because vitamin C, vitamin A, actually vitamin D is a big, a big nutrient for fending off infections. So, we get vitamin D from sunlight primarily, but many of us are not getting sunlight regularly right now. So vitamin D is found in foods. It's fortified in milk and some yogurts. Some cheeses have vitamin D. Eggs contain vitamin D, and fatty fish. So salmon, halibut, tuna, mackerel will have vitamin D, but not many foods have it. So what you may want to be thinking about doing is supplementing with vitamin D, particularly if you are low in that nutrient to begin with. So many people don't even know that. So next time you see your physician, not because of this virus, but down the road, ask for your vitamin D levels to be checked so you know during times of health what your vitamin D is. And this way you will know, do I need to supplement or not? I mean, I need to take a supplement. So you want to make sure that you're somebody that doesn't need to take one. And if you do need to take it, that's one of the supplements I do recommend.
Great. Thank you.
Vitamin D3 is the type of vitamin D you want to take. So that's the most bioavailable form, vitamin D3.
Excellent. Are there foods that depress the immune system?
Interesting. Yes. Foods that are high in sugar and refined, carbohydrates that are sort of empty calorie foods. Alcohol can suppress the immune system. So that's why not drinking too much these days.
Vicki, you can't take away our alcohol during this time.
Exactly. And a glass of wine with a meal, as I've always said, Rick, is fine to do.
All right.
But you want to think about how much alcohol you actually are taking in. So a 5-ounce glass of wine, a 12-ounce beer, or 1.5 ounces of liquor is a serving. Alcohol?
No, it's not.
Vicki, I'm going to agree with Kate.
So, it's something you do want to think about. How much alcohol you're taking in, and those sugary processed foods are not doing your immune system much good. You want to think of those whole foods first to keep that immune system supported. That's the primary player in immune function. Our bodies are amazing. I mean, we have 100 trillion bacteria that are in our bodies. It's so much more so. The statistic is bacteria outnumber human cells in the body by 10 to 1.
Oh, wow.
Unbelievable. So we have so many bacteria. The key is balancing the good bacteria with the bad bacteria and making sure the bad bacteria, like those viruses, don't outnumber the good. So that's really what you want to think about, keeping yourself in homeostasis or balance with the nutrients you're eating, your physical activity level. Getting enough sleep is so key too. Sleep is a major factor in supporting the immune system. They've done research on this. People that don't get adequate sleep, which the National Sleep Foundation says is 7 to 9 hours a night, will see some issues with immune function if they continue to not get enough sleep. So, all of us at some point or another have not gotten enough sleep, but it's over time. Are you giving your body the sleep it needs?
Thank you.
I'm still shocked that did you say 7 to 9 hours is what they recommend? Yeah. God, I think I've been sleep deprived my entire life.
Well, what I was going to note too is some people do require less sleep. Some people, if your body clock is less, like if your eyes open at, 6 hours of sleep, that's what your body needs. So listen to your body. If you are, sleeping in on weekends really late, or during the week you're having a hard time opening your eyes when the alarm goes off, that could be a sign that you might not be getting enough sleep. So you want to pay attention to those cues. And that's really the important part of this. Sleep is such a new science, so we're learning so much about sleep, and it's just fascinating how much it affects your overall health and well-being.
I definitely need 8 or 9 hours to feel good and focused and all that. Yeah.
Great. And listening to that is the key. So, when we talk about immunosupport, sleep is a big aspect of it. And once again, you're going to sleep better if you're more physically active, and physical activity that, 30 minutes, 5 times a week, at least 150 minutes a week is so important to, obviously sleeping well, but supporting the immune system also.
And the big thing you tapped into earlier is if there are a lot of people right now that have extra time on their hands, that this is a really good time to make sure that you're adding that extra exercise to your daily schedule.
Absolutely. At this time when we are home more, it's important to think about getting in that physical activity. I mean, maybe you have an elliptical at home, or you have a yoga mat where you can get on your yoga mat and stretch. Or while you're watching, TV, or maybe you're catching the latest on the news or the virus, be stretching and moving and getting off the couch, because that is really important to keeping your immune system functioning optimally. So trying not to sit as much. This is the perfect time. I've talked to so many of my friends that are organizing their homes. They're cleaning their closets out. They're organizing drawers. They're moving too while they're at home. And this can actually make you feel better too, because it's kind of decluttering your life also. Getting outside too, if you can take a walk outdoors, if you can get yourself moving and get some sunlight, that really does wonders for your immune system.
Great, thanks.
Perfect.
Is there anything else that you can think of, Vicki, that is sort of immediately relevant with regard to stress and our health and our
Well, I think one of the big ones, we talk about social distancing, but when I've talked to some physicians, and this social isolation, you want physical distance, but you want to be connected socially. So still calling family and friends, making sure you're connecting online with people, because that really does, enhance your immune system, keep you functioning in the real world as much as you can, virtual meetups. Think about ways that you can still stay socially connected in this time of physical distance. So to me, that is so key, because you see it, even with older people that are quarantined or they can't see people, having that, social outlet to be able to connect with people is so key. And honestly, when we talk about the diet, really it's thinking about that balance on the plate always. I always go back to this, because your body functions best when you think about, am I eating those whole foods? Am I getting in the water? Am I getting in the fiber? Think about how much of those things you're taking in on a regular basis, and you will feel better for it. Plus, you are taking care of yourself. Your well-being is enhanced with that attitude also.
Excellent.
It's great. Thank you. So, Vicki, how can people find out about you? How can they find out about your services, your podcast, your newsletter, all of which are great?
Great. Yes. Just go to my website, victoriashantaretelny.com. I do have a weekly newsletter I send out. You can sign up on my website. My blog is right on the website too. It's called Simple Cravings, Real Food. And my podcast is called Nourishing Notes. And that is an Anchor podcast. If you go to anchor.fm and put in Nourishing Notes, you will find my podcast. It's just a 2-minute podcast that I do. It kind of gives people the down and dirty about nutrition topics.
Oh, how cool.
Love it. It's super sweet.
I haven't heard it yet. I'm so excited.
Yeah. And you guys, we love Vicki. She's the person we've had on the podcast the most because she's super down to earth. We like her. She's super practical is another reason we like her. So definitely check her out and check out her website and everything she offers.
Well, thank you so much, Vicki, for sharing your wisdom once again. And we look forward to the next time we chat.
Thanks for
Vicki.
having me. Stay well.